Yeah. I mean, the core of the issue is, what if we go to the Olympics, Ana Barbosu has a problem that she needs to talk about with the athlete rep. She's not going to feel comfortable doing that if Ponor is the athlete rep. And that should be the only issue, because every athlete needs to be comfortable with the athlete rep.
Remember, this show is PG-13, so you might hear a naughty word or two. Today, the historic Romanian qualification has been marred by Romanian infighting. We are going to talk about what is happening with a TV interview that Ponor did last week. This week was supposed to be a commissioned episode, but instead, we are going to talk about what happened with Ponor, and then we are going to put out our commissioned episode on the perfect body tomorrow. So look forward to that coming tomorrow. Today is November 6th, 2023, and this is GymCastic, the #1 gymnastics podcast in the galaxy. I'm Jessica, and I'm here with Spencer from the Balance Beam Situation. So let's start with the Romanian mess. But before we get to this, I just want to talk a little bit about the way we report and why we report the way we do, and make a distinction between like when we just read the Gymternet news and give our opinions opposed to original reporting. So, not all information is created equal, Spencer. I don't know if you know about that.
What?
So I know, it's shocking. So as we're ramping up for the Olympics and more information comes out, we're going to have to start our 4-year headlines again. This is going to be
my favorite thing.
It's the best segment we do. I just want to be a little more transparent about the information we have and how we share it. So if we report on something, like we're breaking news, like when we broke that Gabby Douglas was back training again, that's because we have vetted the information, we have the information, it comes from our sources, right? Or we have, done the work. If we haven't vetted the information, we will make it clear our confidence level about the information, or we'll just say, this is being reported by so-and-so, here's our opinion on it, and not that it's coming from us. If we don't report on something, or we're limited in what we say, it's because we know more and can't get people to go on the record or have questions about the information. And not going on the record is one of the biggest things in gymnastics, because everything is a big giant secret. So I think a lot of people think that the podcast is the job, like just recording this, but the job is actually like the entire week of talking to athletes, judges, coaches, officials, parents from literally around the world. Like, this is the life that Spencer would hate, constantly texting and having calls with people nonstop.
I don't know why you do this to yourself.
So that's really the job, is information gathering and vetting. And this is why Spencer and I work so well together, because I love talking to people and Spencer likes to collect data and give an official opinion based on the science. So with that background.
Yes, let's start with, I want to start by exactly how I started when we were talking just a couple days ago when we were not recording, which is, Jessica, explain to me what happened with Romania. Because as far as I was concerned, I was like, this amazing thing happened. Romania qualified a team to the Olympics for the first time since 2012. Everything is great. And then I look at the internet and I'm like, oh, everything's not great. So right. Jessica, tell me what's not great. What's going on?
So the news out of what happened at Worlds, we're going to start by talking about Catalina Ponor of Romania, who is now the FIG athlete rep. She is a 3-time Olympic gold medalist, legend in gymnastics, most recently competed at the Rio Olympics in 2016 as the individual qualifier for Romania. 2 things important happened at Worlds. The first thing is that there were sources, people on the floor during podium training reported that Ponor approached Ana Barbosu. Ana Barbosu is, one of the top gymnasts from Romania. She's been around a long time. You remember Barbosu because she left the sport because of so much bullying. Then she came back very recently. And there's reports that Ponor approached her and in a unkind and aggressive way, asked her, what vault are you doing? Is 1.5 supposed to be laid out or tucked? Mm-hmm. What are you doing? Well, if you're supposed to do it laid out, then do this. And then because of the history that Barbosu has had, and it was so hard to get her to come back to the sport, the Romanian coaches asked Ponor to respectfully leave the coaching to the coaches and not coach the athletes.
Mm-hmm. Because Ponor at this point is the athlete representative. So right. She has an official position in addition to being, having a ton of Olympic medals, but she is not coaching the Romanian gymnasts or the Romanian team at this point. She's right. With the FIG.
And her job, of course, is as the athlete rep to let all the athletes and coaches know she's there for them. She's there to represent their interests, introduce herself. That all that stuff is fine. And this is why she's allowed access to the floor during podium training, of course. So Ponor went on to Romanian television and gave an Orange Sport and gave an interview about an hour long about the Romanian gymnastics situation and specifically about this incident, which she said that Patrick, one, did not introduce. Keynes and Damon are the new head coaches for Romania, and they formerly coached Egypt, Netherlands, Austria.
And so are Patrick and Damon at this point the personal coaches for everyone on the Romanian team or some of the Romanian team, or who is working with who, and how does this work at this point?
So there was a lot of upheaval. I think the Romanian Federation realized they had to make a change because, the Romanian Olympic team hasn't qualified a team to the Olympics since 2012, nor had to practically kill herself getting to the 2016 Olympics, we remember, as an individual. And so what happened is that there was a lot of upheaval, there was a lot of infighting, and after a period of Patrick and Damon, or Patrick specifically being there and working with the Romanian team, they allowed the Romanian gymnasts to choose who they wanted to be coached by. So they had Gina Gogin coaching. Gina Gogin made a lot of public statements about how wrong this was, and the majority of the national team ultimately chose to be trained and coached by Patrick and Damon and move locations. And the only gymnast that was at Worlds that isn't coached by them was Voinea, who made floor finals. And she's also the gymnast that did not vault, but she was in team qualification, but was given an opportunity to vault again, but did not. She made floor finals. And she is coached by her mom, Voinea, of the famous breakdancing beam and floor routines. So she is the only one from Worlds that wasn't coached by them. So Ponor alleges that Patrick didn't introduce himself on the floor, that she was not allowed to talk to the Romanian team after podium training. She says that she gave Barbosu advice on vault, asked if she was doing a laid out or tucked 1.5, and she just gave the advice to stretch her legs and arms more. She talks about how valuable it is to talk to someone like her, an Olympic and world medalist, and how her coaches always encouraged her to do it, and gave the example about Radikon did this for her once and it really helped. And but then they go on, to give you the tone of this interview, the host of the show asked, well, if Barbosu didn't want you to talk to her, like maybe she's not strong enough to do gymnastics. So this is a child, a teenager, a minor, who was so bullied that she left gymnastics and only recently was convinced to come back. The other thing that you should know about this is in Romania, bullying and cyberbullying is a crime, punishable with jail time. So that is the context that I want to give to this. The other thing that happened at Worlds that I want to give context to about how much Barbosu has been through, and I don't think it's just a matter of like being not strong enough. I'm using the quotes from the host of the show, is what happened in the mix zone. Do you remember the mix zone story?
No, please tell me.
Okay. So there is a TV reporter named Alina Alexoi, and she was overheard by multiple people, confirmed by me, in the mix zone calling Barbosu an offensive name when she wouldn't do an interview with her. So Barbosu has suffered from this reporter in the past, and so didn't want to do an interview with her. And so when she wouldn't, this reporter called her a name, and apparently it's a very offensive word in Romanian. It means filthy, grime, like a lying, cheating person who has no value. So a reporter called a gymnast this name in the mix zone at World Championships. So you can see why Barbosu didn't want to talk to her. So that is like the context of, I think, when the host of the show said, well, is Barbosu not strong enough? Can you imagine what would happen if a reporter called a gymnast a name in the mix zone in the US? Credential gone, out of the building, immediately gone. Like, that's it. Over.
Also, that should happen to any reporter in any country at any competition. And one would think would.
Right.
If other people around understood the language that they were speaking.
Yeah. This has been escalated in the FIG, is my understanding, that the issue with the reporter has been escalated. So my question for you is this, let's just examine what is the role of the athlete rep and is this ethical behavior for the athlete rep?
The athlete rep needs to be able to be trusted by every athlete in the competition. So if you are publicly really making any comments about an athlete, I would say even like positive comments, but certainly if you're making publicly negative or critical comments or engaging in public analysis of an athlete or their mental state or their performance, you're not able to serve as the athlete representative.
Yeah. I think part of this also is like looking at the FIG ethics. The FIG ethics say specifically, let's see, what's this? Can you read these off so I don't get them wrong?
Yes. So a part of the FIG Code of Ethics says abstain from any bullying or abusive language or behavior towards others in person, electronically, or in any social media platforms, whether in private or public form. Behave with courtesy and politeness. Always uphold as first priority the physical, psychological, and mental well-being, integrity of the athlete.
And then we also have the FIG athletes' rights document. And this has some important points on it too, which I think point to the athlete's right to say, and the coach's right to say, I would like to not be coached by someone else if I ask not to be coached by someone else.
Mm-hmm.
So the specific parts of this segment say, can you read those? Can you see those?
The protection of mental and physical health, including a safe competition and training environment, and protection from abuse and harassment. There's reporting unethical behavior without fear of retaliation. There's privacy, including protection of personal information. Consistent with the FIG ethics, the tone and the statements of the FIG ethics code.
And I think what really stands out to me here is someone can say, I was asked not to talk to the athletes or coach the athletes, and that's one thing. But I think like if you look at the history of the specific athlete, if you look at how hard it was to get her to come back to the sport, and you look at this specific point 9, which is report unethical behavior without fear of retaliation, it should just say you shouldn't have fear of retaliation, period. Whatever happens. And I feel like if an athlete rep goes on TV for an hour and complains about the being asked not to coach, although she did not interpret it that way. She interpreted it as I was asked not to be around the team or talk to the team. That I feel like is a retaliation against the athlete. And I think this is a big concern. There are ways that this could be discussed in a way that is more kind and thoughtful to all available. And maybe there could be some self-reflection about, what could I do that could be positive? I'm sorry that if I upset anyone, like, please let me know what I can do in the future, rather than going on a TV show for an hour. I also think that if you imagine what it takes for a new coach in a new country to ask someone like Ponor, one of the most famous gymnasts in Romania and most decorated, to please not coach the athletes. And knowing the upheaval that could take. Like, what do you think happened? And what was really the interaction if it was just, straighten your legs more? I think there's probably more to the story than what Ponor reports. If a coach went to the step of talking to Donatella and talking to Ponor and saying, please don't approach the athletes and coach them on the floor. So to what Spencer says, everyone has to feel comfortable and like they won't be retaliated against if they talk to you. Like that's the most important thing about the athlete rep position. And Ponor talks about that in her interview too, like how she needs to make everyone feel comfortable talking to her. So what do you think will happen with the FIG and this situation?
Oh, well, whoever knows what's going to happen with the FIG, but I think this is certainly not the right position for Ponor. I think that's clear. And she shouldn't be the athlete rep anymore.
Yeah, I agree. I don't see how anyone would feel like they could trust her at this point. But I don't think the FIG will do anything. Are they going to remove her from the position? Ask her to step down?
I mean, they could. They have that within their capabilities.
It would be a massive change in FIG behavior to take a step like that. It would really show that they are standing up for their safeguarding policies and that they're not just writing them on paper, but they're actually taking them seriously and doing things as well.
Yeah. I mean, the core of the issue is, what if we go to the Olympics, Ana Barbosu has a problem that she needs to talk about with the athlete rep. She's not going to feel comfortable doing that if Ponor is the athlete rep. And that should be the only issue, because every athlete needs to be comfortable with the athlete rep.
All right, you guys, let us know your thoughts on this. I will post the translation of the interview in our show notes so that you can read it for yourself and you can give us your thoughts. And we will be back tomorrow with the Perfect Body commissioned, which in all of its 90s excellence.
Wow.
So send your feedback, gymcastic@gmail.com, or you can put them in the forum. We can talk about it on behind the scenes on Friday at noon Pacific. And of course, you guys have a special section in the forum just for Club Gym Nerd members. Thank you guys so much for your support. And until tomorrow for the Perfect Body, remember to take off on gay, split on rights. Thanks for listening. See you Friday.